We can't afford your son's medical treatment, but we can afford your nephew's new car, Dad explained. My son needed $32,000 for specialist care. My nephew was getting a $45,000 BMW. I didn't argue. I just sent Grandma a text with a photo. What Grandma did next made my dad panic. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even stand up. I just sat there at my parents' dining room table, watching my son's fork freeze halfway to his mouth, while my father slid a shiny key fob across the table like it was a trophy. Bryce is getting a BMW, my dad announced loud enough for everyone to hear. My sister squealed like it was Christmas morning. My mom clapped her hands together. My nephew Bryce, 19, smug, perfectly healthy, and somehow always going through a lot, leaned back in his chair and grinned. My son Eli just stared at the key fob. Then he looked down at his plate like he'd done something wrong. I had my folder on my lap, the same folder I'd carried to work, to the pharmacy, to the pediatric neurologist, and to the hospital billing office, so many times it looked like it had aged 10 years. The number was on the top page in bold, $32,000. That's what the specialist wanted up front. Not eventually, not we'll bill you. Up front, Eli needed a pediatric specialist 2 states away. The local doctors had used too many careful words. Rare, complex, we don't want to wait. And then they'd handed me a referral like it was a life raft. So I did what I always did. I went to my parents first. Not because I thought they'd save the day like some movie, but because I thought at the bare minimum, they'd look at their grandson and say, "Of course we'll help." My dad didn't even look at the folder. He looked at me like I was pitching a business plan. "We just can't swing that, Jim," he said. Calm, practical, like he was explaining interest rates. "Not right now." Then he tapped the BMW key fob with his finger and smiled. "But we can do this for Bryce. He needs reliable transportation. He's starting his life." I felt my throat tighten. Not because I was about to cry. Because I knew exactly what my son was hearing. Your health is optional. Your cousin's comfort is not. Eli was 9. He was quiet in that way that makes adults forget you're still listening. He had this habit lately of trying to be easy. Like he was afraid his body had already cost too much. He didn't say anything. He just reached for his water with both hands, careful like the glass might shatter if he wasn't gentle enough. My sister Dana finally glanced at my folder like it was something unpleasant left on the table. "Oh, Jimmy," she said, using the version of my name she used when she wanted to sound sweet while being sharp. "Medical stuff is endless, you know. You throw money at it and it never stops." Then she nodded at Bryce like he was a wounded veteran. "But Bryce has been so stressed. He's working and doing school and he's really trying." My dad nodded satisfied, like the matter was settled. And that's when I realized something simple and horrible. They weren't choosing between 2 emergencies. They were choosing between 2 kids. And they were choosing the one that made them look good. My hands were shaking under the table. Not violently, just enough that I could feel it. I looked at Eli's face. The way his mouth went tight like he was trying not to show he cared. That was the moment. Not the BMW, not my dad's tone, not my sister's smug little smile. It was my son deciding silently that he didn't deserve help. I kept my voice even. "Okay," I said. My dad blinked like he expected an argument like he was used to me fighting for scraps. "Okay," he repeated. I nodded. "Okay." I slid the folder into my bag, stood up, and put my hand on Eli's shoulder. "We're heading out," I said. "Thanks for dinner." My mom's eyes widened. "Jim, don't be dramatic." I didn't answer that. I just looked down at my son. "Coat," I said softly. Eli pushed his chair in, without a sound. On the way out, I heard Bryce laughing as my dad told him something about insurance rates and how Grandpa's got it handled. I buckled Eli into the car. He sat perfectly still, looking straight ahead. Halfway home, he finally whispered, "Dad." "Yeah, buddy." He swallowed. "It's okay if we can't do it." I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. "No," I said, "it's not." He nodded like he believed me, but his eyes stayed on the window. And that's when the whole last decade hit me at once. Not just this dinner. All of it. I'm Jim. I'm 40. I manage a restaurant. One of those busy places where the dinner rush feels like a storm and you're expected to smile through it. I'm good at my job. I keep people calm. I solve problems. I smooth things over. I got really good at smoothing things over because I learned it at home. Eli is my only kid. His mom isn't in the picture anymore. It's been us for a long time. He's not loud. He's not demanding. He's the kind of kid who tries to make your life easier without realizing he shouldn't have to. My parents live 15 minutes away. My sister lives even closer. They love to say we're a close family. What they mean is I'm close enough to be useful. It started small, the way it always does. My dad needed help covering property taxes one year. I wired $1,800. My mom wanted to redo the living room. I loaned them $2,400 for furniture. Never saw it again. Dana's car broke down right before Bryce started high school. I paid the $900 repair because the kid shouldn't suffer. Then it became routine. A little here, a little there. I set up a weekly transfer for my parents at one point. $250 every Friday because my dad swore it was temporary just until things leveled out. That transfer stayed for 3 years. Every time I hinted I was stretched thin, my dad would sigh and say, "Family helps family, Jim." But here's what they never said out loud. Family helps them. When Eli was diagnosed the first time, not even the big specialist referral, just the beginning stuff, the tests and scans, my mom said, "Well, kids get sick. It happens." Dana said, "At least it's not like cancer." Like that was the bar for empathy. When Eli missed my dad's birthday dinner because he had a flare-up, my dad joked, "He's always got something going on, huh?" Eli heard him. I saw the way his smile dropped for half a second. And still, I kept showing up. I kept paying. I kept bringing gifts. Nice ones, because I knew money was the only language in that house that got you treated gently. I thought if I stayed generous enough, patient enough, they'd eventually treat my son like he mattered. But sitting at that table watching my dad hand Bryce a BMW key fob, while my kid sat there trying not to disappear, that wasn't a misunderstanding. That was a message. And for the first time in my life, I heard it clearly. The next morning, I went into my restaurant early, not because I needed to, because the office was quiet before lunch, and I needed quiet to think. I sat at my desk with my phone and my coffee, and I pulled up my banking app. There it was. The family support transfer every Friday. $250, autosh, scheduled. Like my paycheck had a little leak in it that I just accepted as normal. I clicked into the transfer details. Cancel. The app asked if I was sure. I didn't hesitate. Then I went into the bill pay section. My dad's phone. Bill because I put it on my account years ago when he claimed the carrier was overcharging him. Canceled my mom's streaming services because she didn't understand the login stuff. Canceled. And then the big one, the joint savings account, the one my dad had convinced me to open for family emergencies. The one I'd been feeding with $300 a month because he said it was responsible. I looked at the balance. Just over $12,000. I stared at that number for a long time because suddenly I could see it for what it was. Not an emergency fund, a holding tank. Money sitting there waiting for whatever my parents decided was important. And apparently important meant a car for my nephew, not medical care for my son. I transferred every dollar of that account into my personal savings. Then I closed the joint account. The app gave me a confirmation screen. I took a screenshot. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt calm, like I'd finally stopped holding my breath. That afternoon, my dad called. I watched his name light up my phone. I didn't answer. He called again and again. Finally, I got a text. "Dad, Jim, call me. The account is doing something weird." I didn't respond because I knew what came next. They always followed the same script. First, confusion, then irritation, then guilt, then anger. And I didn't have the energy to sit through the whole performance. Instead, I did the one thing I hadn't done yet. I texted my grandma, my dad's mother, Grandma Rose. She was 82, sharp as a tack, quiet in a way that made people underestimate her. She lived in a small house and still paid her own bills, still clipped coupons. Still sent Eli birthday cards with crisp 20s tucked inside like it was a secret mission. My dad acted like he ran the family. But Grandma Rose was the one everyone actually feared disappointing. I didn't write a long message. I didn't plead. I didn't rant. I just sent her one photo. The photo I'd taken the night before, because something in me had known I'd need proof. It was the BMW key fob sitting on my parents' table right beside my folder with $32,000 visible on the top page. Then I typed me. Dad said they can't help with Eli's specialist, but they can afford Bryce's $45,000 BMW, and I left it there. I put my phone down and went back to work. Dinner, rush it. A table complained about their steak. Someone spilled a drink. A server cried in the walk-in because she'd had a bad day. I handled all of it because that's what I do. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about my grandma and that text. And I kept thinking, please see it. Please understand what they're doing. I didn't hear anything until the next morning. I was making Eli oatmeal when my phone rang. Grandma Rose. I answered immediately. Hi, Grandma. Her voice was calm, but there was something hard under it. James, she said. She only used my full name when she was serious. Are you at home? Yes, good. Don't go over there today. My stomach dropped. What's happening? A pause. Then I'm going over there. I could picture her already putting on her coat with that deliberate little motion like she had all the time in the world. Grandma, no. She cut in. Still calm. I have let your father talk too much for too long. I swallowed. I didn't mean to start a war. I know, she said. That's why I'm starting it. Then she hung up. I stood in my kitchen, staring at my phone like it had turned into something else. Eli looked up from his bowl. Was that Grandma Rose? He asked quietly. Yeah, I said, forcing my voice to stay light. She just wanted to check in. Eli nodded, and that little hopeful softness crossed his face. He loved Grandma Rose because she never made him feel like an inconvenience. She asked him about his drawings. She listened when he talked. She didn't rush him. I cleaned up breakfast and tried to act normal, but my hands kept going cold. Around noon, my dad called again. This time I answered. Hey, I said. He didn't bother with hello. What did you do? He snapped. I leaned against the counter. I cancel-sealed my transfers. You stole from the joint account, he said, voice rising. I kept my tone flat. It wasn't your money. It was mine. That account was for family emergencies, he barked. I almost laughed. Almost. Eli's specialist is an emergency. I said. You said you couldn't help. A pause. The kind where he was recalculating. Then he tried a different tone. Lighter. Annoyed like I was being childish. Jim, don't be petty. Bryce already put a deposit down. I blinked. A deposit? He hesitated, and I understood immediately. The BMW wasn't just a gift. They were already in it. They'd already committed, probably counting on that joint account like it was a wallet sitting on the counter. My dad exhaled sharply. Look, he said, we can talk about Eli later. Right now, we need to fix this before it becomes a bigger issue. There it was. Not. How is Eli? Not. I'm sorry. Just fix this for us. I tightened my grip on the phone. I'm not discussing this, I said. Eli comes first. My dad's voice turned cold. You're going to regret making your mother cry over money. I didn't respond to that. I just said, I have to go. And hung up. An hour later, Dana texted me a photo. Bryce standing in a dealership showroom, arm around my dad, grinning. A giant red bow on the hood of a black BMW, like they were in some commercial. The caption from Dana was, Dana, hope you're happy. You always ruin things. I stared at the picture, and then my phone buzzed again. Grandma Rose texting this time. Grandma, I'm here. 2 minutes later. Grandma, your father is lying to my face. Then, Grandma, he doesn't know. I already know. My chest tightened. I didn't know what was happening in that house, but I could feel the ground shifting. Then my phone rang again. Not Dad, not Dana, my mom. I answered, and she sounded breathless. Jim, she said like she'd been running. Where is the money? The account is. It's gone. I moved it. I said, you can't just do that, she hissed. And in the background, I heard another voice. Grandma Rose's, clear as a bell. Linda, stop whispering like a thief. My mom went silent. I heard my dad's voice now. Too loud, too controlled. Mom, stay out of this. Grandma Rose didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. I am in it, she said. Because I have been giving you money for years, Frank. And now I'm finding out you told your own grandson, no, while you played Santa Claus for a grown boy who wants a luxury car. My dad's voice faltered for the first time. It's not like that. Grandma Rose gave a short, humorless laugh. Oh, then explain why James has been paying your bills while you take my checks and pretend you're struggling. Silence. Real silence. The kind where someone has been caught with their hand in a jar. I didn't say a word. I just held the phone and listened. Then Grandma Rose said the sentence that made my stomach flip. Frank, did you use my money for the down payment? My dad didn't answer fast enough, and that was answer enough. Grandma Rose inhaled slowly. Give me the phone, she said. My mom must have handed it over, because suddenly Grandma's voice was right in my ear. James, she said, I need you to listen. I'm listening. I am paying for Eli's. Specialist, she said plain and final. Today, my throat tightened. Grandma, I can't. Yes, you can, she cut in. Because you've been carrying people who don't deserve it. It stops now. I swallowed hard. Thank you. I'm not doing it as a favor, she said. I'm doing it because that child is my great-grandson and he matters. Then, quieter. And your father is going to learn what panic feels like. I didn't see Grandma Rose's next move in person, but I heard about it from 3 different people within the hour, all sounding like they'd witnessed something historic. She didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She did something worse. She got specific. She asked my dad to sit down at the table. Then she asked him to bring out his bank statements. My dad tried to talk his way out of it. He tried jokes. He tried indignation. He tried, Mom, you don't understand. Grandma Rose just stared at him until he stopped talking. My aunt later told me, Grandma said very calmly, you've been telling everyone you're broke. Let's see what broke looks like. And my dad, my big, loud father, apparently went pale. Because my grandma didn't just have opinions. She had leverage. The house my parents lived in. It wasn't fully theirs. Grandma Rose had helped them buy it years ago, and her name was still on the paperwork. Just in case, she'd said at the time, my dad always told people it was for estate reasons. No, it was because Grandma Rose didn't trust him not to mess things up, and now she was done pretending. She told him she was calling her lawyer. She told him she was changing her will. She told him the family help he'd been receiving both from her and from me was over. Then she did the thing that made my dad actually panic. She told him she was calling the BMW dealership because the down payment hadn't been from Frank's money. It had been from Rose's account. He'd used her money without telling her, and Grandma Rose wanted it back. Immediately that evening, my dad showed up at my door. He didn't knock politely. He knocked like he owned the place. Eli was in the living room drawing. I told him to stay there. I opened the door, and my dad stood on my porch, red-faced and sweating through his coat like he'd run here. He tried to push past me. I didn't move. Where's Eli? He demanded. I kept my voice calm. He's inside. I need to talk to you, he said. No, I said you need to leave. His eyes darted like he was searching for the right threat. Your grandmother is losing her mind, he said. She's accusing me of things. She's trying to cancel Bryce's car. I blinked. Good. My dad stared at me like I'd slapped him. You're enjoying this. He snapped. I didn't raise my voice. I'm not enjoying anything. I said, my son is sick, Dad. I asked you for help and you told me no. Then you bought Bryce a BMW. My dad scoffed. It's not that simple. It is, I said. He leaned in, lowering his voice like he was doing me a favor. Just tell her you overreacted. Tell her you didn't need the money. Tell her you and Eli are fine. My stomach turned. There it was again. Not how is Eli. Not what can I do. Just fix my problem. I shook my head once. I'm not doing that. I said. My dad's face twisted. You're choosing this. He hissed. You're choosing to tear this family apart. I didn't flinch. No, I said you did a long time ago. I'm just done paying for it. He opened his mouth, probably to launch into the guilt speech he'd used on me my whole life. But then something happened. Eli stepped into the hallway behind me. He didn't come close. He just stood there small, holding his sketchbook to his chest like a shield. My dad saw him and stopped for half a second. I thought my dad might soften. Then he said, "Eli, go back to your room. Adults are talking." Eli's shoulders sank. I felt something hot and sharp move through my chest. I didn't yell. I didn't insult him. I just said, "Get off my porch." My dad stared, stunned. "Jim," I said, "get off my porch." I repeated, "Stady. You don't get to come here and order my kid around after you told me his health isn't worth as much as a car." My dad's jaw worked like he was chewing rage. Then he spat, "You'll regret this." And he left. Eli didn't cry. He just looked up at me and asked very quietly, "Are we in trouble?" I crouched down so we were at level. "No," I said, "we're safe." He nodded slowly, like he was trying to believe it. Then he held out his sketchbook. "I drew Grandma Rose," he said. I looked down. He'd drawn her sitting at a table with a little crown on her head. Not a fancy crown, a cartoon, one like a kid would draw for someone they trusted. Under it in careful letters, he wrote, "She's brave." I swallowed hard. "Yeah," I said, "she is." The next week was chaos in the way family chaos always is. Missed calls, text that started with "we need to talk" and ended with "you're ungrateful." Dana sent paragraphs about how Bryce was devastated and how I was jealous and how I was punishing a kid. My mom tried the soft approach first. "Mom, we're all just stressed. Let's not do something permanent." Then she tried the guilt approach. "Mom, your father is sick over this." Then she tried anger. "Mom, you're tearing your grandmother apart." I didn't answer because my boundary wasn't a debate. It was a decision. I didn't fund people who erased my son. I didn't pay bills for adults who could buy luxury cars but couldn't help a child get medical care. I wasn't their backup bank anymore. Meanwhile, Grandma Rose moved like a quiet storm. She paid the specialist deposit directly, not through me. She called the hospital billing office herself and asked questions until they started calling her ma'am with real fear. She also called my dad's bank and removed herself from any shared access he had, which apparently triggered another round of panic. The BMW dealership thing, that part spread through the family like wildfire. The story everyone told was slightly different, but the key part stayed the same. Grandma Rose walked into that dealership small and steady and said, "That's my money. Reverse it." And when the salesman tried to explain policy, she said, "Then I'll enjoy explaining fraud to my attorney." The down payment got reversed. Bryce didn't get his BMW. My dad's perfect little public moment collapsed. And the consequence wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. It was humiliating. It was exactly what my dad hated. A month later, Eli and I drove to the specialist. It wasn't a miracle movie moment. It was early mornings, cold waiting rooms, paperwork, and Eli leaning against me in that tired way that made me want to carry him, even though he was too big now. But we got there. We got seen. We got a plan. And for the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't drowning. On the drive home, Eli fell asleep with his forehead against the window. I kept glancing at him like I needed to keep checking he was real. When we pulled into our driveway, my phone buzzed. A text from Grandma Rose. "Grandma, how did it go?" I texted back a photo, not of a BMW, not of a folder, a photo of Eli asleep in the passenger seat, his sketchbook on his lap. "Me, we're okay. Thank you," she replied. "Grandma, good. Keep protecting him. I'm proud of you." I stared at that message for a long time because my dad had never said he was proud of me. Not once. And somehow that mattered. Less than it used to. We didn't go to my parents' house for the next holiday. We stayed home. I closed the restaurant early that day. I brought home a small cake from our pastry case. Nothing fancy, just chocolate with Eli's favorite frosting. We ate dinner in our kitchen, just the two of us wearing pajama pants and listening to music too loud. Eli drew little place cards for the table like it was a restaurant. One said Dad, one said Eli. Then he paused, looked at me, and quietly made a third. "Grandma Rose," he said, I smiled. Yeah, we set it at the table anyway. An empty chair, but not a sad one. A respectful one. Later that night, Eli taped his drawing of Grandma, rose-crowned and all on the fridge. And I stood there in the quiet kitchen, staring at it, feeling something settle inside me. Not revenge, not victory, just relief. My dad didn't get to decide my son's worth anymore. I did. And I was finally acting like